Okay, so now we're looking at part 2 of angle equations. Okay, so in the last set of notes, we created equations for each of these situations. Now we're going to have to go through and figure out what x is. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite my equation up here. You don't have to rewrite it. You should have room underneath. I just want to make sure that I have room. So you don't need to rewrite the equation. So we're going to start solving, okay? You can ignore the degree symbols for now. It's not a big deal. All we want to worry about are solving these equations. Okay, so we're getting x by itself. So we want to undo the constant first. Okay, remember we get rid of the number on the side with the x, right? So I get 30 equals 2x. 10 minus 10 is 0, so it's gone. Now I have a 2 multiplied by x. I can divide each side by 2 or multiply by 1/2. And I get x equals 15 degrees. Now if I go and I look at my picture here, if I replace the x with 15, well, 2 times 15 is 30. 30 plus 10 is 40. They're equal. Pretty cool. So make sure that you solve this equation on your paper. Number 2. I'm going to rewrite this again. And having to go back to our equation skills. I have constants on one side together, so I'm going to combine them. Remember, you don't start solving back and forth until you have everything simplified on each side. So now that I've simplified this left side, I can now start solving. This should all be review. 70 minus 70 is 0. I end up with x equals 20 degrees. It's as easy as that. If you're struggling with the equation solving, this is going to be tough. But we've done that so many times, this should start coming back to you, hopefully quickly. Okay, example 3. So I have 12 degrees plus x equals 110 degrees. Start solving. Eliminate my constant first. Negative 12 on both sides, or minus 12. And I get x equals 98 degrees. And again, if you want to double check yourself, you can substitute. I'd have 12 plus 98, which when you add up is 110, which matches my angle right here. All right, example 4. Here's where it appears to get a little trickier, but it's really not a huge deal. Again, I'm just rewriting it so I have room. You should have enough room. So a little review. When we have variables on both sides, we just need to get rid of one on one of the sides. I'm going to get rid of this 2x because what'll happen is they'll cancel out on the right, and on the left, 3 minus 2 is just 1. So I have x. It's going to save me a lot of time. X plus 1. Remember, just bring the constant down. 2x minus 2x is 0. Bring my 10 down. Remember, we want to get the x's together on one side, constants together on the other. Since my x's went to the left, my constants are going to go to the right. and x equals 9 degrees. All right, number 5. Again, let me rewrite it. Okay. Again, simplify each side before we solve anything. I have x's here that I can combine. I get 10x plus 10 equals 180. Start solving my equation. Eliminate the constant first from from the left side. Get my numbers away from the x. I get 10x equals 170. Undo multiplying 10. You could either divide each side by 10 or multiply by 1 over 10. Either way, you should get x equals 17. Now, what you may be asked from time to time, and you don't have to copy this down, but just so you're aware, they may actually ask you what the measure of the angle is. So if x is 17, how could we figure out what this angle measure is? We could multiply 8 by 17. Let's see what you get. You get this angle equals 136. So if they ever ask you, what's the measure of this angle, and you have x's everywhere, you'll have to solve for x and then substitute to figure out the angle measurement. Okay. And our last example, 5x equals 3x plus 40. I have variables on both sides, so we're going to get rid of one set. I already have x's on the left side by themselves, so I'm going to move the x's off the left. I'm sorry, off the right. So minus 3x from each side. So again, if you just start out with a variable on one side, that's when we subtract a constant, right? Or get rid of a constant on one side. Because I have x's on both sides, I've got to get rid of an x on one of my sides. Those cancel. I get 2x equals 40. X equals 20. Now again, if you are now asked, what's the angle measurement? Solve for x to figure out what these angles equal. Well, I would have 5 times 20. So the angles equal 100 degrees. If you were asked to figure that out, sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. And that's it. So when you're trying to solve these equations, first step is to get the equation in the first place. Then you just solve it. And that's all.